Yes, a last-minute change to the top of tonight's show, to that huge breaking news. The police investigation into Angela Rayner is examining multiple allegations and is not merely limited to potential electoral law offences. That's according to reports that have just come out this evening. A source has told The Times that at least a dozen officers at Greater Manchester Police are investigating the Labour deputy leader over where she lived in the 2010s.
The political arena is on fire. Angela Rayner wants a rising force in Labour and is now entangled in a legal firestorm. Allegations of election rigging and blocking reform in the UK have put her in the courtroom threatening to upend British democracy. But is this a real case or just a political hit job? Let's dive into the details.
To just issues around the Representation of the People Act, this is the electoral law element, and of course that's significant because those offences are meant to be registered and investigated within 12 months. So of course now we're talking about different things. We don't know, for instance, the kind of exact detail of what they're looking into, but one potential issue, if it's involving two different houses, is capital gains tax, of course, and there is no kind of statutory limit on that, which means that potentially you could see an investigation and potential criminal offences, etc., being committed, and it wouldn't have a time limit on it. And so that's what we're really interested in. I've just been talking to some Conservative MPs, and they say, look, it's tax that really ought to be the thing that, if it's going to do for her, that's the thing that's going to do for her, because, there is no limitation on that. And of course, that's the thing that did, for instance, for Nadhim Zahawi, and some of them are pushing now for an HMRC investigation as well. So I think this is quite a significant development tonight, and The Times also reveals that at least a dozen officers are involved in this. So it's quite a big investigation from the sounds of it.
Exit polls indicate a strong showing, highlighting Karma's push to reshape Labour as the party of working people. While the official results are still pending, if they match the projections, Labour could secure a mandate to steer the country beyond years of political instability.
Angela Rayner she hasn't got the intellectual capacity. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but she just hasn't got the intellectual capacity to keep kind of telling fibs correctly. If you're going to, all politicians lie, all politicians embellish, but you've got to have a certain amount of intelligence to make sure that those lies and embellishments all kind of like fit together properly. So if you're challenged about each one of them individually, you can keep that lie or embellishment going, even if it's only a kind of white lie. With Angela Rayner, she just doesn't have the capacity, the mental capacity to do that properly. So she immediately stumbles. So one of the things that really made me laugh.
In a dramatic twist, Angela Rayner reportedly broke down in tears while defending her decision amid mounting backlash from opposition parties and legal experts questioning its validity. The controversy centers on her move to postpone elections in 9 council areas. The Deputy Prime Minister confirmed that elections originally set for May would be delayed until May 2026, coinciding with the transition from a 2-tier council system to unitary authorities.
When I heard that the Labour government, despite any manifesto commitment, want to completely change the shape of local government, and that is now being used by the Conservative Party, who in fact run most of the county councils, as a reason to cancel the elections. No, I'm not making it up. Over half of the county councillors in Britain have said, because these changes are coming, we want the elections cancelled on May the 1st. It looks like about 10 million of you who would have had the right to vote on that day will not be able to.
The affected regions, East Sussex, West Sussex, Essex, Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Norfolk, Suffolk, and Surrey will see over 5 million people unable to vote. This year, this unprecedented move has sparked widespread outrage over the cancellation of local elections on such a massive scale. The government, however, defends the decision as part of a broader local governance overhaul. The housing communities and local government secretary has pushed for more council areas, including those covering both county and district councils, to transition to unitary authorities. Additionally, 7 new devolution areas have been proposed with plans for mayoral elections in May 2026 across Cumbria, Cheshire and Warrington, Greater Essex, Hampshire, Norfolk, and Suffolk, Sussex, and Brighton and Lancashire.
This is absolutely monstrous. We haven't heard a big debate about it because both Labour and the Conservatives agree. They are terrified of the rise of reform. They know just how well we're going to do on May the 1st, and they've cancelled the elections in many of our strongest areas. Well, I promise you, we will fight those that are still up. We will do well, but I'm pretty angry. This denial of our democracy is something that is fundamentally un-British, anti-British, it's undemocratic, and it shows how rotten the whole system is now in British politics. There is no doubt in my mind, when you look at it, that Britain...
Addressing Parliament, Rayner defended the decision, stating that certain areas required extensive restructuring to support devolution, leading some regions to request election delays. But consider this: if Nigel Farage were Prime Minister and Reform UK had postponed local elections until May 2026, the backlash would be immediate and overwhelming. Yet under Labour's leadership, this very scenario is unfolding with far less uproar. Rayner emphasized that the government's default position was to proceed with elections unless a compelling justification for postponement existed with a high approval threshold. She revealed that only half of the requests for delays had been granted after careful review to ensure they aligned with the government's devolution plans, according to her holding elections for councils. Set to be dissolved without clear replacements would be an irresponsible use of taxpayer money.
I'm still with political and social commentator James Melville. James, let's talk, if we can, briefly about Angela Rayner's devolution revolution. Sounds almost as dreary as it actually is. She looks now set, because lots of areas are being reorganised with a view to everyone having an elected mayor. Already, I believe Greater Lincolnshire, Hull and East Yorkshire have been assigned mayors, or at least they will be allowed to vote for their mayors. Also up for this are Hampshire, Sussex, Kent, Essex and Cheshire, and others, all earmarked to become areas with elected mayors. Now, that's okay, I suppose, although I do worry. I just feel that, the more you devolution sounds great, but the more you devolve, the more you make government local government preside over national government, the more difficult a country becomes to govern. So I wonder whether or not we're going too far down this road. But the main point to make here is Angela Rayner, funnily enough, said, these areas that are getting reorganised, they were going to have their local elections in May, along with the rest of the local councils of this country. But maybe they won't have them now while they're in the process of reorganisation. Perhaps if they feel, that this reorganisation will somehow or other make it difficult to have these elections, they should let us know and we won't have those elections. In other words, that's the way Angela Rayner is plotting to get out of the inevitable humiliation that the Labour Party will suffer come May, because they're going to get a shellacking in the local elections. They're going to get humiliated. So what's she trying to do? She's trying to stop the elections. It's outrageous.
Critics see a clear double standard. For years, Labour has accused the Conservative government of corruption, cronyism, and misusing taxpayer money, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now the party faces its own accusations of manipulating the electoral system for political gain. Rayner has defended the decision, challenging opponents to justify the cost of holding elections under these conditions. But Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has slammed the delays as a direct assault on democracy, accusing Rayner of blatant election interference in the affected councils. All but one were under Conservative control, with Reform UK poised to gain ground in key areas like Essex and Thurrock. Meanwhile, Conservative Shadow Housing Secretary Kevin Henry criticised Rayner's decision, arguing that it centralises power rather than promoting true devolution. Speaking in Parliament, Henry claimed that despite Rayner's justification, she was not dismantling outdated governance structures, but instead creating new strategic authorities designed to align with Labour's central government. He called the move a political maneuver aimed at pushing an unpopular socialist agenda under the guise of local governance reform.
Fairly vague lines in the Labour manifesto talking about increasing devolution, but nothing on the scale of what's been foisted upon these counties. And so there's 9 councils, mixture of counties and unitaries, that have had their request to cancel their elections accepted. There were a number of other councils that tried, and quite frankly, it's a disgrace. We live in a democracy. Part of being in a democracy is the ability to vote in our elected representatives, but also, crucially, vote them out. And the councillors that were elected, or the last time this set of councillors were elected, was back in 2021. It was the height of Boris's kind of vaccine bounce. The political context has changed very dramatically since then, as we all know. And we think that even if the government and councils want to go ahead with these structural changes, we think these elections should be used as an opportunity for those people who want to carry on those negotiations to get the mandate to deliver the change they want. If you want to take on more powers, then you need to also be held to account for the way that you've exercised the powers you've already had. So in Essex, in Surrey, in Hampshire, Isle of Wight, and Sussex, these councillors are getting away with the ability to hide from their electorate, and that's outrageous. 5.5 million people are being denied their right to vote.
And I've been asking about...
Polling expert Lord Haywood has highlighted the deeper political implications of Angela Rayner's decision, arguing that the election delays have effectively blocked Reform UK's best shot at securing its first council. According to him, Nigel Farage's party, rising steadily in national polls, was on track to win control of the council. Had the elections proceeded as planned, with Thurrock seen as a key battleground for Reform UK, historically a stronghold for UKIP, he was poised to deliver a breakthrough moment for Reform UK. By delaying the elections, Rayner has effectively shielded Labour from a high-profile defeat that could have dominated headlines in May. The current Thurrock Council consists of 27 Labour councillors, 13 Conservatives and 9 Independents, with all seats originally up for contest. Reform UK had already made significant inroads in the area, with James McMurdo winning the MP seat for South Basildon and East Thurrock. In the last general election, the party also finished second in the Thurrock constituency, which covers the rest of the council's jurisdiction. However, Thurrock Council, which declared bankruptcy last year, is now set to merge with other parts of Essex to form a new unitary authority, further complicating the political landscape.
About the cancelling of these elections, you call it the cowardice of the political class. It's 9 areas, isn't it, that are having their elections delayed as a result of this kind of what you might call restructuring, if you like, of some regions. But I mean, when they were standing for government, I don't remember them talking about doing this. I mean, I might have missed it somewhere in the manifesto, but was there any notion that this was going to happen until relatively recently?
There might have been a couple of...
On Wednesday, Angela Rayner announced the postponement of local elections in 9 council areas, a move that has sparked fierce opposition from Reform UK. The party insists the elections should proceed as planned, arguing that the government is undermining democracy out of fear of electoral competition with court proceedings underway. The political fallout from Rayner's decision could have serious and lasting consequences for her position in government. Meanwhile, a new poll has revealed a historic surge in support for Reform UK. The survey places Nigel Farage's party in the lead, with 29% marking a 2-point increase from the previous week. Labour follows at 25%, while the Conservatives have dropped 3 points to 18%. The Liberal Democrats have gained 2 points, reaching 13%. The survey was conducted among 2,487 British adults. The poll signals a major political shift. Reform UK chairman Zikar Youssef called the results huge, noting that it's the first time Conservative support has dipped below 20% in a poll, while Reform UK edges closer to the 30% mark.
If there was a general election tomorrow, more people would vote for Nigel Farage and Reform than would vote for the Conservatives, and this is the very first time a poll has found this, for Labour as well. Nigel Farage, up until now, has led what I think you could